This might be the most comfortable man living in the apocalypse. Victor not only customized his hairstyle but also gave his beard a treatment, looking incredibly handsome. At this time, his subordinate reported that Alicia had arrived downstairs. Victor was secretly pleased that the person he cared about most had come. Feeling it was all fate, he walked to the rooftop with proud steps, specially wearing his best suit to meet Alicia. He took out a telescope and looked, but unexpectedly, Alicia was standing in a phone booth with dozens of fully armed people. However, Victor wasn't panicked. He picked up the phone and started communicating with Alicia. He asked why Morgan, the coward, wasn't there, wondering if he planned to make a grand entrance at the end. Alicia replied that he had taken the children to a place you can't find. Victor was delighted with Alicia's arrival. He wanted to show off his achievements to her and then invited Alicia into the building for a drink to discuss matters between them. Alicia asked if this behavior was considered surrender. Victor cunningly said, "Come in, and we'll talk about it. Maybe I will surrender." Alicia thought Victor couldn't possibly do anything to her. The people outside now have nowhere to go. It would be best if they could coexist peacefully without going to war.
One drink.
Wes didn't understand Victor's actions at all. Victor seemed a bit too happy and said he knew what he was doing.
Is there something you want to say?
Wes, knowing Victor, a person cold and selfish, realized that only for Alicia would he break his own rules. He was very worried that because of Alicia, everything in the building would be ruined. Victor, somewhat excitedly, insisted that wouldn't happen and asked Wes to hurry to the cold room to get a bottle of wine. Wes could only reluctantly do so. Victor then told another subordinate to wait for his orders after the sun sets. Then he went down to the first floor where Alicia had already arrived and was being searched by the cavalry. But to Victor's surprise, Daniel also came. The subordinate helplessly said that the old man insisted on coming in and almost killed one of our men. Daniel said he wanted to see his daughter. Victor paused for 2 seconds, remembering Wes telling him Luciana had deceived Daniel into thinking his daughter was here. Victor didn't expose it but just told his men to take Daniel to the basement. Seeing Alicia a bit worried about Daniel's safety, Victor said, "If I wanted to kill him, I'd have sent him to the rooftop. I just want him to cool down." Then Wes brought the wine and glasses. Wes still insisted that Alicia shouldn't have been let in. Before, she and Dwight had left him to die in the bunker. If he hadn't been lucky enough to find the drain, Wes would have died. But Victor didn't care about all that. Now that Alicia had come to the building, he was ready to show her his achievements. Alicia was not convinced and only hoped to finish a drink quickly and get to the main point. But Victor was thinking about having a good talk with Alicia about life and feelings. Alicia bluntly told him that their story had already ended, and from today on, the building would belong to them. Victor didn't argue but walked to the wall, picked up the phone, and told the subordinate on the rooftop that they could start the operation. Then he cut the line connecting to the phone booth to prevent anyone from snitching. Alicia felt something was wrong and asked what he was planning. Victor calmly said that there was a horde of zombies in that crater that had absorbed several months of radiation, and he had the cavalry lure them out to circle outside. No wonder that crater was empty. At that moment, the sound of the generator started, and Victor said he was going to turn on the rooftop lights and then attract those zombies to take out her squad. After hearing this, Alicia wanted to rush out to warn her teammates, but it was obviously unrealistic. Victor had intentionally lured Alicia in to eliminate the people outside, so she would stay here forever. The cavalry arrived at the rooftop and turned on the lights. As the sky gradually darkened, Alicia could only shout, trying to tell her teammates to leave, but her voice couldn't get out. Then Victor ordered Wes to take Alicia down and temporarily lock her up. Wes, who had been worried that Victor would be swayed by emotions, now realized he had misjudged him. He then asked what to do with Daniel, and Victor directly said to bring him to the rooftop as an example. Alicia realized she couldn't sit and wait for death. She decided to take the initiative. While they were talking, Alicia quietly took off her left glove. Just as the cavalry approached to take her away, Alicia knocked one down with her right hand and quickly subdued another. Even Wes, who rushed over, was wounded by Alicia's prosthetic. Then Alicia quickly aimed at Victor and took his handgun. Alicia shouted for Victor to order the lights to be turned off, but Victor didn't speak, and the cavalry didn't move. Alicia decided to go up to the top floor herself to turn off the spotlight. Then she held Victor at gunpoint and entered the elevator, pressing the button for the 6th floor. Wes could only watch angrily as the elevator doors closed.
I'm making a mistake.
Shut up.
But the elevator had only just reached the 3rd floor when it suddenly stopped. Obviously, the cavalry had shut it down from the outside. Alicia lost her patience and told Victor if he didn't turn off the lights, she would kill him, but Victor would rather die than turn them off. Once off, there would be no zombie horde for protection, and he also firmly believed Alicia wouldn't kill him. Soon, Wes's voice came from outside, and Alicia quickly shut down the elevator. Alicia looked up at the ceiling, trying to find a way out from above, but after 3 jumps, Alicia's old problem flared up again, and she began to feel weak all over. Seizing the opportunity, Victor kicked away her handgun and drew a long knife, pressing it against her neck. Outside, Wes was calling for Victor to open the door, but Victor seemed to want to clear things up with Alicia here and ignored Wes outside. He tried to persuade Alicia to stay with him and build a future. Alicia calmly asked, "Do I look like I can live much longer?" Victor, of course, knew about Alicia's illness, but he assured her that he had all sorts of medical supplies and would cure her. Alicia helplessly said that all methods she could try had been attempted, but the situation was still worsening. Victor looked somewhat sorrowful. Alicia continued, "I'm not afraid of dying, but it shouldn't end like this. The people outside shouldn't die like this. Please, turn off the lights. I'll take them and leave." Victor hesitated. He couldn't ignore Alicia's request. She was his only weakness in life, and he didn't understand what kind of emotion this was. After thinking, Victor made a condition: "You stay in the building, and I'll turn off the lights and let them leave. Even if you don't have much time left, spend your last moments with me." Alicia began to consider this trade-off. "Can I prove you wrong about me?" Victor earnestly asked. They faced off for several tense seconds. Alicia extended her hand, and Victor, relieved, pulled her up. They struck a deal. After the elevator doors opened, Victor signaled Wes not to be tense. They had reached an agreement to turn off the lights upstairs in exchange for a truce, and Alicia would stay. Wes, unable to accept it, said, "After all the cold-blooded things you've done, do you think she will accept you?" Victor firmly replied, "My instinct tells me she will." Wes, with a bitter smile, aimed his gun at Alicia, believing that she was Victor's weakness and that as long as she was here, the building was doomed. Victor wasn't panicked. Victor wasn't panicking. Would he be afraid of one Wes with all the people he had? But the situation quickly turned against him. The cavalry aimed their guns at Victor. Wes had already spoken to them, anticipating that Victor would lose his mind over this woman and eventually doom the place. No one wanted to leave the building and live outside again. Victor nonchalantly put down his handgun, just as Wes was about to have the cavalry seize them. They escaped once more. Finally, they ended up in the stairwell, where Alicia said it was impossible for them to reach the 6th floor by themselves. Victor thought there might be one more ally they could turn to naturally. He meant Daniel. At that moment, the cavalry holding Daniel had just received a call. Wes ordered them to kill Daniel, but the cavalry hesitated. Wes cut him off, declaring he was now in charge of the building. In that moment, Daniel quietly approached and strangled the cavalry with his handcuffs. Then he told the soldier, "Do you know why this happened? Let me teach you something. When you rely on others, keep your hands behind you, not in front." With that, Daniel ended the life of the cavalry. He had once been a CIA assassin. Either kill him at the start or don't give him a chance, or the consequences would be dire. In some ways, if he turned, he could be even more terrifying than Victor.
Daniel, stop. He's here to help.
Seeing the two approach, despite Alicia's assurance that Victor was there to help, Daniel looked at Victor with disdain, seeing him as nothing but a liar full of deceit. Victor could only explain that Wes had betrayed them, and now they needed to go to the rooftop to turn off the big lights. Otherwise, the zombies attracted would kill everyone outside. Alicia added that they needed his help to reach the rooftop. However, Daniel insisted he wouldn't help anyone until he saw his daughter. They all took a deep breath. Knowing Daniel's daughter was already dead, Alicia tried to tell him the truth, but memories flashed in Daniel's mind. He remembered Victor deceiving him and preventing him from seeing his daughter, and after that, his memories were unclear. This made Daniel even more convinced that Victor was hiding his daughter. Victor sighed. The old man's memory was completely confused. After much consideration, he finally said, "Ophelia is on the rooftop.
She's on the top floor."
There are cavalry blocking the stairs, but we'll help you find her." Hearing this, Daniel smirked but then quickly became serious and warned Victor, "You know the consequences if you're lying. Right now." Victor couldn't worry about what would happen later. He firmly said, "Ophelia is on the rooftop. Let's go find her together." Daniel then lowered his gun and agreed to set off together. Wes and his men didn't know where Alicia and the others had gone and could only arrange cavalry on various floors. As a former assassin, Daniel had been through such scenarios many times. The untrained cavalry were almost no challenge to him. At this point, Alicia asked Victor what they would do when Daniel discovered his daughter wasn't on the rooftop. Victor said he was prepared. Naomi and others were also locked on the rooftop. If we rescue them and get them on our side, Daniel will compromise, Victor stated, also prepared for the possibility that only one of them might survive. To Victor, Daniel was undoubtedly one of the people he feared the most in his life. Alicia felt some sympathy for Daniel, just a father unwilling to believe in his daughter's death, now being deceived to keep hope alive. Victor sincerely said to Alicia, "You must think I'm a cruel monster, but I've always been the same person I was with you. I won't apologize for my actions, that's why I'm willing to turn off the lights." Alicia, hearing this, began to hope again in Victor. Upstairs, gunshots continued, and occasionally bodies fell. The assassin was indeed living up to his reputation, but at that moment, Alicia's illness flared up again, and Victor quickly supported her. They had to head to the medical room on the 3rd floor to look for antibiotics. Daniel, meanwhile, intercepted the cavalry at the door. Even in a gunfight, he was incredibly calm, and the few cavalrymen were almost no trouble at all. After taking out several cavalry, Daniel came across a logbook on a table and immediately asked Victor, "What is this?" Without hesitation, Victor said it was a record of everyone in the building. As Daniel flipped through the pages, Victor realized something was amiss. Daniel, not finding his daughter's name, realized he had been deceived and once again aimed his gun at Victor. Victor, seeing no way out, confessed the truth. "Your daughter isn't on the rooftop. I said that so you would help me." As Daniel was about to shoot, Victor quickly added, "Now I can help you find your daughter. She's right there." Then he led Daniel to a bed inside the room. Lying there was Charlie, a girl Daniel had once treated as his own daughter. Victor hoped that seeing Charlie would bring some reason to Daniel.
It's not my daughter. Where is she?
Ophelia died in Mexico, Daniel.
Now, Daniel doesn't have the heart to care about Charlie. Who can understand the despair in Daniel's heart? Tearfully, he accused Victor, "You really haven't changed at all."
Trying to save the closest thing that I have to a daughter. Surely you can understand that, Daniel. Ophelia's gone.
It was a pitiful sight for the old man. Victor continued, "Even though your daughter is dead, you're not left with nothing. You still have Charlie. She was like father and daughter to you before, but now she's sick and doesn't have much time left to live."
It's not my daughter!
Daniel got emotional and said, "I've had enough of you." He was about to shoot. Just then, Alicia, lying on the bed, called out to Daniel, urging him not to do it, reminding him they were all relying on him and that Charlie needed him too.
Daniel?
Awakened by the noise, Charlie was happy to see Daniel there. To her, he was the only family she had left in the world. With tears in his eyes and a complex heart, Daniel said, "Don't look at Charlie. I don't want you to remember me like this."
Don't do it.
Alicia continued to persuade Daniel, "Your daughter is dead. Be the person she would have wanted to see." Listening, Daniel's hands trembled, and he finally came to his senses. Recalling his daughter's face in their last moments together, he felt he owed her because of his bloody past as an assassin and the lack of time he'd spent with her as a child. He never got the chance to apologize before she died. So, he refused to believe she was dead, always thinking there was a chance to make amends. Finally, Daniel was persuaded. Victor's life was spared. Minutes later, after receiving antibiotics, Alicia finally started to feel better. With Victor by her side, she learned about Charlie's situation from him. The two most beautiful girls in the story, who had once survived together, were now lying sick in bed. Victor said that Charlie, at best, only had a few weeks left, so they needed to protect the building and ensure she could spend her remaining time there. So Alicia and Daniel say let's move on. Daniel no longer wished to move forward. He didn't want to leave Charlie alone anymore, as she now needed her father's company. They didn't say much more, only relying on themselves. Charlie said to Daniel, "I'm sorry, I'm not your daughter." Seeing the child before him, a now lucid Daniel felt even more heartache. Victor led Alicia to the 3rd floor armory. A direct assault was definitely not feasible, so they took some tear gas and masks, their only chance for success. Victor went in first, met with a barrage of gunfire. After a while, Alicia, amid the thick fog, heard the sounds of battle. Growing worried, soon, she heard Victor say he had reached the 6th floor, but when Victor opened the door to the 6th floor, he found his former apartment, now occupied by Wes and others who had been waiting for a long time. Wes didn't attack. Instead, he tried to reason with Victor. I know you believe in the best of Alicia, but those people are all hypocrites. The building you've created is real, and we must protect it. Don't be blinded by that woman. Let's finish what you started together." Pretending to consider, Victor then suddenly rushed toward the stairs, willing to do anything for Alicia. When he emerged, he found Alicia leaning against the railing, the effects of the antibiotics waning, and she was growing weak again. Soon, they were being pursued by Wes and his men. They fled into a room, essentially trapped with no way out. Having fired the last bullets from their pistol, they could only wait for the worst to come.
But I love you, Alicia.